WNYC TV presents Barbara Lee Diamonstein and...
Because I put this sweater on over it. Betty Comden and Adolph Green for 35 years have represented in the American theater wit and talent and social commentary for every era. Their contributions to the movies, the musical theater, and Broadway, as well as their civic spirit, have made them in New York and across the country the essence of quality show business in America. It's a very special pleasure to have you both here.
Thank you. That's beautiful.
I'm very pleased that you're both here. Betty and Adolph, perhaps you should clarify a misconception. I think that many of your fans think that you're married to each other. Can you straighten out that understandable misconception?
Well, we are married, but not to each other. Adolph's married to Phyllis Newman, who I suppose every listener knows is a terrific actress and singer. And I'm married to Stephen Kyle, who's not in show business. He's a businessman and designer for many, many years.
Right, and it's quite understandable that people have thought that we will marry each other because we are possibly the only team of its kind in theater and motion picture entertainment industry because we are as I recall, a fellow, and a girl.
Yeah.
There we are, and we are not married to each other, and we are
a team.
Friends, and we meet every day, and we work, and we certainly have been closely identified over a period of years.
There have been lots of teams, but they're usually, married teams like Garson Kanin and Ruth Gordon, or two-men teams, or brother and sister, two brothers. But I don't think there's ever been a team quite like this. That's lasted as long, at any rate.
Well, it's really quite true. Collaboration at best is a very difficult form to master. How have the two of you managed so well and for so long? What's that secret?
Well, it's hard to say. I think it started out so accidentally and then grew into, at the beginning when we were a nightclub acting, into a sort of a miracle that happened. And then we went through many ups and downs and years. I think one of the things we said that kept us together is sheer terror of being apart.
We didn't start out to be a team because this group, the Reviewers, where we started, was originally 5 people. It's just that it sort of dwindled, it paired away, and then the 2 of us were left, and we had always done, I guess, the bulk of the writing for it, and we found ourselves having to make a living, and we were just 2, and so we changed everything around and made it an act for 2.
Maybe we should stop a moment and tell us about the Reviewers, that original act in Greenwich Village. Who were the other 3?
Well, Judy Holliday was the girl, the extraordinary actress and terrific girl. And there were 2 other boys originally, and we all sort of got together quite accidentally, again not planning to form a group, but it just happened. We were all kids looking for work in the theater, and Adolph had met Judy one summer, and then he had met me when I was at NYU. A mutual friend introduced us, and somehow we all found ourselves in this little cellar in Greenwich Village.
Going on one night a week.
The Village Vanguard, which is still there, looking exactly as it
did then. It's the only spot of its kind around. I mean, it's a permanent fixture of the 20th century. It has that nice, wonderfully seedy quality and ease, and it has the original owner, Max Gordon,
who wouldn't like to hear it referred to as seedy.
No,
it's very attractive, warm, welcoming, and simple.
Comfortable.
Yeah, comfortable. I know you did.
Seedy in the warm
I just wanted to clarify.
That's nuance.
to clarify it, so that
But
Max
even I know a cue when I hear one. Yes. You mentioned the 20th century. Your most recent Broadway offering that I guess won more awards this past season than any other.
Won a lot of Tonys, more than any other show.
Right.
And you were both responsible for many aspects of that show. Can you tell us something about it?
Well, it's called On the 20th Century and was based loosely on a play called 20th Century by Hector MacArthur, and based on another play by a man named Mulholland. And we wrote the book and the lyrics for the show. Cy Coleman wrote the music. It was directed by Hal Prince, and brilliantly. And it's a sensationally designed show too. Robin Wagner did an extraordinary train, which makes it almost like a movie on stage.
I understand that you recently filled in for one of the stars of 20th Century. That was a departure for you. What was
Yes.
that all about? And
Well,
how was it?
Imogene Coca had to go to the coast, and originally it was just supposed to be for 4 performances, and one terrible night someone suggested that I go on for her, and I was doing it the next night. I had about an hour of rehearsal, and then I did it for the whole week because she didn't get back. It was kind of fun.
And she was wonderful. She really
Yes,
was a
Adolph came to
delight.
see me. Yes.
Yeah?
No, it was lovely, tasteful, ladylike, charming, and easy as if she'd been doing it forever.
Yeah, well, everyone said, well, it shouldn't be hard because you wrote it. You and Adolph wrote it, so you must know the lines. I mean, what's so hard about doing it? In fact, Harold Klorman, the director, said that to me one night. I had just come from a performance, and he said, well, you know, since you two wrote it, and I said, but I haven't put it into my body yet. And he thought that was a very good way of expressing it, because when you act, that's what happens. It has to
Especially
become integrated into yourself.
Especially as it turned out in the show that also there are a number of terrifying physical moves that she had to make.
Yeah, and learn them very fast.
You know, big lifts onto pieces of scenery which you hang on to for 2 seconds, get lifted off, and then carried onto another. And she literally had to be carried around.
Yeah, there's a long sequence of being in different parts of the train, carried in the dark and placed very. But enough about me. Let me tell you how I played this part.
Do you think of yourselves primarily as performers, or do you prefer to create work for other people to perform? I'm thinking of your own evening with Comden and Green. Which do you prefer?
We love to perform, but it's not our way of life. It's not what we've made, whatever pelf and feeble glory we've acquired. But it turns out to be both a wonderful, stimulating change, plus a source of income, as Betty says in an introduction at the beginning. Just we only perform now and then.
Oh yes, to earn a living.
Yes, yes.
Well, writing for the theater is very uncertain, and we always have that to do, and we enjoy it, and it renews us in ways. It's good to get up and perform because it uses you in a different way, and we feel that need, and we enjoy it, and audiences have been very responsive, so I think we'll keep performing as long as we can, from time to time.
Of course, Betty and I, over the years, turned down professional offers individually, because it's not that easy to say, I've got these great 2 parts. No. So we got into the lifetime habit or spoken law of never taking anything, because our partnership is the thing. And of course, Betty, in that performance that she gave, I mean, you can't say tear out the front page, but it was totally, completely, simply professional in every possible way. And Betty could go into 18 trillion parts and be a smash.
So could Adolph. We just have made choices. You have to make certain choices and decisions.
How did you make
way.
the choices of what to include in an evening with Comden and Green? It's almost a autobiographical sketch in many ways.
Well, we started at the beginning, and I guess we picked some of the reviewers' material that we thought was representative of what we did, little things from the different little reviews that we
And much to our
wrote.
amazement, found that these got, especially from young people, a smashing instant response, nothing to do with nostalgia, thank heavens.
What's wrong with nostalgia?
Only because of the sickly associations that it's acquired.
And when you're still functioning and you're still around, you don't like to be thought of as just a stroll down memory lane. I mean, we consider ourselves current, working and planning work for the future. So we're
You're
happy.
in the process of planning some work for the future.
We are, right.
That is in such an embryonic stage. Are you willing to talk about it at all?
It's with Cy Coleman. That's what we know. He'll be writing the music. And because of certain things, we really can't get into it.
Well, we'll look forward to that under any circumstances. What are some of your favorite little pieces from the evening of Comden and Green? Because I have one that I really like a lot. Behind every man there's a woman. What else?
Oh, inspiration.
It's called Inspiration. Can
Yeah.
you do a little part of that for us?
How could we do that?
Well, it's about how behind every, we all know that behind every great man there's always a little woman, was responsible for the whole thing. And as I say in the introduction, we might have written it a little differently today because it has to do with the relationship of men and women. But that's a fact that people still think about, that there's this little woman behind every man.
You disabuse us of that idea. Who are some of the people that you invoke? Those
Beethoven.
Beethoven, yes, Samuel Morse, and Rimsky-Korsakov. That's a good group.
Yeah.
And in each case, we show how it would seem inadvertently the little woman inspired him to the greatest moment of insight and invention of his life. You know.
You say that with such delight that I assume that among the little women who inspire you, Betty fills that role. Just tell us in detail, how and where do you go about collaborating?
By the way, she doesn't fill it inadvertently.
How do you go about collaborating? I mean, how do we work?
Yes.
We meet every day. It's like going to the office.
Is your office at home? Is it a studio?
Yeah, we both have work rooms. Each of us has a room in our respective homes where we work. And we work mainly at my house. I have a work room at the top of the house. And we get together every day. And the hours
Every day?
Every day.
At the same time?
And it depends, well, roughly. And it depends on whether we have a project. The number of hours depends a great deal on exactly what we're doing, whether we're looking for an idea,
and what
whether we're in the middle of something and we just might work day and night.
Yes, it's 24 hours a day once you're really going on a project.
How do you happen to write lyrics and not music?
We write book and lyrics.
Yes.
And we wish we wrote music.
Well, which one of you plays the piano?
Neither of us does. Betty has 4 chords.
Play a little bit.
And in the days of the reviewers, she wrote a number with those 4 chords.
And we all wrote music in those days because when you're young, you do anything. Whatever comes along, you do it. And we had no inhibitions about it. And we used to just sing melodies. And there was one boy who could play the piano pretty well, and he would play them. I mean, Adolf would maybe sing a whole tune at him, and he'd say, "Oh, you mean like this?" And then we'd add a line, and someone else. And we wrote music. And then I was able to write some things with my little chords.
Well, I don't understand how you can write lyrics now without doing the music. How does that get fit together?
Sometimes we write dummy tunes.
A lot of lyricists work that way.
And sometimes you just hope and pray, and then the composer will be inspired when
that magic moment of coming together, the great crescendo.
Exactly.
Well, with all the changes that have happened in the decades, the political 30s and 40s, the post-war prosperity of the 50s, the social revolution of the 60s, and now whatever it is that we have in the 70s, how do you relate your work to all of that, or do you?
Well, you seem to have laid out most of our lifetime, 30 seconds. Well, you try to relate to it. I know we're always hoping we're going to write an original, and sometimes we do, and it certainly has to do with what's happening in the world today. And then, of course, sometimes you come to the conclusion we better do anything but take up what's happening in the world today. Let's go 300 years back.
Well, we took a show, a play, 20th Century, which was early 30s. And it is the story of a man and a woman, a very overbearing, egocentric director, and a star, a woman he discovers and builds into a big star. And in the original play, she's very much a foil. She's a shrill, strident actress, very funny, but he has the upper hand all through. And I think something about the times we live in made us decide to build her part, to make her a much more interesting person. She's still this crazy, egomaniacal little actress, but she is strong, and she's also intelligent, and they are very equal. Their battle is an equal one at the end.
And a great part of the play is the fact that she has created her independence and is nobody's Trizzle Trilby. Yeah.
And that's something in terms, that's an old play, and the thing does take place in the 30s, but it has an approach of today.
To get back to an earlier thing, I'm so fascinated by the lyrics and not the music. Is there any kind of, are there lyrics, can you write lyrics for any kind of music, or is there any particular kind that you prefer?
Well, you see, writing songs for us is, everything comes out of the book. I mean, we don't sit around. I wish we had written some just Tin Pan Alley hits. That would be terrific, or disco hits, anything. But we've written things that come out of the story,
Yes,
out of
but
the
one can
characters.
interpret so much from any
Well,
given
also,
storyline.
getting
You
back-
can have a country music interpretation
Yeah.
as well as a classical one if you choose to.
Yeah, it depends on
Depends
what
on the
point
story.
of view is needed for the story. In the case of On the 20th Century, we found it very difficult at the beginning, and then suddenly with Cy we stumbled on the thing of the fact that since these characters were also overblown, larger than life, and posturing and strutting people, that we would do it in the form of a comic opera. And we started writing with a Rossini feeling.
Instead of a 30s feeling. See, we might have said, let's do a pastiche 30s score, and we decided not to.
There
We would
wouldn't
take
be-
the
there
cue
wouldn't
from the
be a
characters.
note of the 30s in it, and there isn't musically.
As performers, do you think that it gives you a much better idea of what, when you're writing for a part, what the potential performer, does it give you greater insight into what they have to do?
I think it's very helpful that we've been performers. And we've worked with a lot of stars, and we always look for the strengths of whatever star we're working with.
Have you ever written specifically for a star or for?
Certainly.
Many
course
times.
we have.
Rosalind Russell in Wonderful Town. We had to work just to her strengths and her limitations. And Lauren Bacall in Applause, we wrote the book. We didn't write the score, but we understand and know her and know that.
And we had the problem dramatically solved of turning the character, who was the Margot Channing, from All About Eve, into a character that from the screen was made for Betty Davis, into something that really would meet Lauren Bacall and her personal qualities. And
Mary Martin in
Mary Martin,
Peter Pan.
And Judy Holliday in Bells Are Ringing. We wrote that show for Judy.
Yes. So, always with those people specifically in mind.
Is there anyone that's currently performing for whom you would like to write?
Let's see. Oh, well, in the theater? I'm trying
There
to
are
think.
Or in music.
many people of
But
great
specifically,
talent.
any new or younger performer that you think would make a particularly interesting central character in one of your musicals?
Well, we haven't
Yeah.
thought of it, but I suppose if someone approached us with a terrific star, if someone said, hey, Bette Midler wants to do a show badly, and say, my God, there's
She's
a
terrific.
talent that has endless tappability, and
Tappability.
like this.
Yes. Well, not only do you adapt in terms of the subject matter, I assume you adapt also in terms of the audience. It seems to me that one of the changes that are taking place in theater is who attends the theater, who is attracted to the theater. What have you noticed? In what direction do you feel that the theater is moving? Is it more towards musical entertainment, or the economics of musical theater so prohibitive, or is it towards drama? Is it towards Grand Guignol? I mean, where are we going?
We hope it's towards musical theater.
I think there are more musicals and more comedies than there are serious plays. I know the Broadway theater has a hard time now supporting serious plays. They're off-Broadway and off-Broadway, but the economics and the attraction of an audience seem to work against the health of serious theater at the moment.
That's compounded, I assume, with musical theater because
Well,
of the size of cast,
Yeah.
the amount of equipment, the union,
It's
everything.
tremendously
Yes, the
expensive.
cost of putting on an average musical is stupefying, yes.
What is the average cost?
It's over $1 million. And I think people are thinking of smaller casts. There are a couple of shows now, a couple of very small casts on Broadway now. I don't know whether that will become a trend, because people will always look for musical theater for something that they can't just get on a television set. The kind of spectacle and beauty and bigness is good if you can keep providing it now and then at the same prices.
I keep on thinking of you as being available to new ideas and possibilities, and obviously even your wife, Phyllis Newman, did not think in traditional terms as she brought her new play to the Hudson Guild Theater.
Right.
Have you ever thought of, that's coming to Broadway, isn't it?
Yes, very soon.
Good.
Very soon.
What's it called?
Well, it's called at the moment, and maybe it'll stay that way, the what is it called?
The Mad Woman of Central Park West.
Yes.
Now, Phyllis is marvelous, and it's a really remarkable show with she and Arthur Lawrence.
Arthur Lawrence are
put
writing
together.
and Arthur is directing.
Well, the point that I'm trying to make is that she obviously viewed a creative way of initiating that performance in a, however successful the productions in the Hudson Guild Theater, in a rather obscure location.
Yes.
Have you ever thought of working in other than a conventional, for you, Broadway kind of setting?
Yes, we have. We wrote some material for an off-Broadway review at the American Place Theater. The show didn't have a life beyond that, but working that way was fascinating and interesting, and maybe something will come of it. There's a couple of numbers of it we do in our show, in
Which
the party.
ones?
One is called Simplified Language, and the other is called The Lost Word. It was all about the future. These are all things with looking toward the future.
It's the first time we worked with Cy Coleman,
We wrote.
and Phyllis incidentally directed the show. And but the critics weren't asked to come because a lot of very good people from legitimate theater contributed their services, and Phyllis and Win Ham and all others decided not to put them on the chopping block for their
How does it get a
generosity.
future life without that kind of amplification?
Well, it may still, you know. it may.
How important are the work of critics, are critics to your work?
I think they make a difference in the commercial theater.
Really?
Big difference,
Big
of
difference,
course.
yeah. And particularly the New York Times, very powerful. And the news, well, we only have 3 papers, when the monthly magazines and weekly magazines are, the weeklies, some of them are very, very...
Is it all different now from the time of your first show? That was on the town. What are the most significant changes that you see?
Trying to think.
Maybe you should start by telling us about that first show. It was on the
It's one of
town.
the things, and it's just a superficial thing, is the fact that George Abbott directed it marvelously. And we were in a large theater, which now no longer exists, then called the Adelphi on 54th Street near 7th Avenue. It's a 1,700-seat theater, but George wouldn't dream of there being any kind of Foots amplification of any sort. We got out on that stage and belted it without any kind of special miking of any sort. And we didn't think twice about it.
That certainly has changed totally. Plays are mic'd now, even, because the audience, the ear of the audience is so attuned to electronic sound.
And the over-amplification of television.
Yes, that no one is prepared to get in there
Let
and
alone
strain
disco
or
and
try to hear.
hi-fi and quad sound.
I'm sure people would now say, "Hey, what's that?" Whereas
I used to go to the
Really?
theater and never
Never
have microphones.
Tell us about some of your collaborators with On the Town.
Well, it was our first show, but it was also the first show for Leonard Bernstein, who wrote the music, of course, and Jerome Robbins, who did the choreography. And well, Leonard was an old friend of ours. Adolph had known him even before the reviewers, and then brought us down. And he became famous the year, and he and Jerome had done Fancy Free, and the two of them just sprang to the spotlight with this terrific ballet. And the idea was presented of their making some kind of a full-length show on that subject, or developing the ballet in some way. And Leonard suggested us to write the book and lyrics. This was at the point where we had just dwindled to being 2, weren't quite sure where we were going. And so he talked them into hiring us. And the 4 of us worked together for the first time.
You've mentioned, I guess, some of the most well-known stars that you have worked with: Rosalind Russell, Judy Holliday, Lauren Bacall. Tell us about some of them. What was it like to work with them?
Well, Judy, of course, we had started out our lives with as one of the reviewers. It was,
we were just that was family.
yeah, it was thrilling to get back years later and to be
made
writing
it in
for her.
in another sense more difficult to come through for family. We had to discipline ourselves even more than we usually would to.
But I keep on thinking that you still work in an extended family way.
Well, Bacall, you mean, because she was a friend too.
Right.
We understood
But there
it.
too, in the case of Bacall, these are just incidental side things. We never discussed it, but there was a sense of discipline among the 3 of us. We'd meet after the show, lots to have drinks, eat. We never discussed the show. We made sure that anything that went on was between her and the director,
Or between us and the director.
and between us and the director.
Which is the only
But
way to
she never
keep-
complained to us, and we never complained to her.
There's always one station removed.
Well, the
Right.
director should be in charge of all that, and all those outside meetings and plannings and are very bad for a show.
Have you ever directed any of your own work?
Not really.
No.
Did the idea ever come to you?
It's flitted through our minds from time to time.
Well, I think the thing that, any plans for that? Any
None,
plans for
none,
that?
no.
What is so striking to the outside observer is obviously your collaboration has lasted more than at least 50% of the marriages without at least any visible dispute or major rupture. How do you explain it? Particularly under the most stressful circumstances of collaboration, creation, deadlines, headlines, all the things that exacerbate even the best of relationships.
I guess
How
we
do you
must
explain
feel
that? Are you such a calm fellow, Adolf, that everything is so easy and agreeable for you?
I'm just the opposite. I'm a total hysteric.
Yeah, neither of us is particularly calm. I think we must feel, without ever having discussed it, that the end results are worth it. I mean, that the pleasures of the working together are enormous, and what comes out eventually is something that gives us satisfaction most of the time. Otherwise, we wouldn't stay together. I mean,
Because these little miracles have always kept happening. While we were the nightclub act, the reviewers, we got tremendous, I must say, critical acclaim and people like Sid Perelman and Robert Benchley and people that sort of just were wild about us, and so that was, that was a great thing. At the same time, we were desperately poor and totally unemployed 2/3 of the time.
Well, those things no longer obtain. It's not out of desperation or fear or terror. What are the ground rules? How do you make it work?
What I'm saying is always renewal. It's we have felt a million times that the world, or our world, was finished, done. Where the hell are we going to go? Really, the bottom. And then suddenly, sometimes we started climbing out, clawing our way out, and then suddenly something wonderful has happened many, many times.
but you're
The
wondering why at
unexpected.
that point we don't break up. I mean, isn't that
Or
in a
it's not
sense
only
that's what
that
you're-
point, it's not I don't think that people often break up on the downside. It's when it's
Oh, I see.
either on the way up
see.
or perhaps when at the moment of collaboration there are just so many decisions and so many differences. There's obviously always more than one way to write a line,
Well, I'll
a
say this,
lyric,
yeah.
and it's not always a better way, but it's a different way.
Well, we've had disappointments in our work afterwards, and oh God, why the hell didn't we work harder? Why didn't we apply ourselves? So damn sloppy. But on the other hand, we've been proud of a great deal of our work, and I don't think either of us have ever had the incentive to show up the other one, to prove to the world that we could make it on our own.
Well, that's not one of our drives, and I guess you find that out early in a collaboration, and you either bust up or you stay together.
Well, thanks for all of us. You've stayed together. Special thanks to you, Betty Comden and Adolf Green, obviously the essence of quality show business in America. And thank you, audience, for being with us, too.